Welcome to the Society.
Before we descend into madness, please be advised that the following program contains topics and cases describing graphic violence, strong sexual content, explicit language, and elements that may not be suitable for some audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
On the 100th floor of the World Trade Center with 30 people, northeast corner.
Okay, let me get you at 100 first, 100 floor?
100th floor northeast, 30 people in the corner. The smoke is very bad.
Okay, I'll get you a fire department. Hold on a second,
We need
okay?
people here immediately.
Okay, hold on a second.
I'm on the 100th floor of the World Trade Center.
On the you said northeast, right?
Northeast.
You got a lot of smoke?
A lot of smoke. We can't see anything. All on the floor. There's heat. We're just...
Fire? FD?
Yes.
We got people on 100th floor northeast.
How you doing at the fire department?
Hi. It's hard to talk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smoke.
Right.
There's heat. We're all overreacting. Please come right now.
What floor are you on?
100 northeast.
Right. Okay, so what's your phone number there?
Sir, I'm on a cell phone.
All right, no problem. We'll get to you.
Please, immediately.
They're on the way.
Elaine Leung has spent the past 23 years holding on to the last trace of her son, Paul Battaglia's voice, a heartbreaking 911 call he made from the North Tower of the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. In 2006, wireless network operator Verizon provided Elaine with a recording, which she kept private until 2016. Elaine believes that the recording is an important piece of history that should be preserved, though she acknowledges that her late father would have opposed to its release. For her, it's about ensuring that both the tragedy and Paul's memory live on. Paul Battaglia had just graduated from SUNY, Binghamton, where he majored in business and managed the campus radio station WHRW. He was known for his lively personality and for making spontaneous calls during this radio show, often surprising his parents and other guests. Elaine remembers Paul as a natural communicator, energetic, humorous, and always full of life. At the time of his death, Paul was 22 years old and had been planning to propose to his girlfriend, whom he'd met at Binghamton. This is just one of hundreds of heartbreaking final calls from that historic and horrific day. As we look back, we honor Paul and the countless others who were taken too soon, ensuring that their voices and stories are never forgotten.
Welcome to a world where darkness and mystery converge. Navigate the depths of horror and true crime and join a society beyond the ordinary, where buzzworthy topics, paranormal tales, and listener-submitted experiences blend into a realm of the unknown. You have crossed into a place where the unusual and the terrifying are just the beginning. My name is Ralph Anthony, and welcome to the Scream Society podcast.
Hello, Screamers. With summer finally out of the way and spooky season officially underway, you all better be hanging in there. Thank you for being here. If you are enjoying the podcast, please head on over to Spotify and rate 5 stars, or on Apple Podcasts, where you can also leave a written review along with those 5 stars. As you know, those ratings will help get this podcast pushed out to more people. We have a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into it, shall we? It's time for Sinister Subjects. We're starting off slow this episode because it's only going to get wilder from here. So if you recall, over the Labor Day weekend holiday, there was some sort of glitch happening with JP Morgan Chase Bank. And when I caught wind, I kind of went into this panic because I thought it was going to affect all of the banks. And I was like, this is it. This is the end. We're doomed. Days later, the people who took advantage of this little glitch are now facing really serious consequences and are in debt over tens and thousands of dollars. So this little hack that ended up blowing up on where else if not on social media had people recording themselves lined up outside of Chase banks and walking out with handfuls of cash. If you fell for it, I hate to break it to you, but you might be in for a bit of a rude awakening. The viral claim said you could snag extra money from an ATM if you had a Chase account, but here's the reality. It's fraud, babe. Plain and simple. And Chase will be snatching back that cash. So how it worked was people were apparently writing checks to themselves, depositing them at ATMs, and withdrawing the funds right away thanks to this little glitch that let them access the money before the bank could verify the checks. Normally, banks take about a few days, sometimes maybe an hour or so, to confirm that everything's legit. Well, as tempting as it was, this little trick was not only risky, it's being considered as illegal. The bank is well aware of what happened and they've been hard at work correcting balances. So if you woke up with a negative balance, surprise, that money you pulled out, yeah, it wasn't yours to keep. So this is wild. Now, experts are stating that banks have systems in place to catch these types of errors, and although it might take a little time, they'll always catch on. And if you were a participant in this little project and you want to kind of backpedal a little bit, call your bank immediately. It's as simple as just being prepared to pay that money back. Now, the aftermath has caused so many people who did this to panic and close their accounts, but they're still expected to pay that money back no matter what. This is nuts. And I just seen a video the other day of a guy literally crying. He's recording himself crying, which I don't know why people do that. But he's crying and it's a picture of his bank account balance, and it is about negative $10,000+ And I'm just like, why do people do stupid things like this? Like, imagine the damage to your credit. Imagine not being able to ever open a bank account anywhere else because of this. I don't know. Y'all be safe out there. Chase is coming for their money. Think about this for a moment. Flashback to the year, what was it? 1969, when the alleged moon landing took place. They placed an American flag on the moon, come straight back. And I say alleged because it's not a secret that the authenticity of this event has been under public scrutiny for years. There's been TV specials, documentaries, all of that. So don't come for me. What I'm having a hard time with, you mean to tell me that 1969 mission went smoothly, but now in 2024, with all of this advanced technology, we currently have astronauts stuck in space at this International Space Station. Veteran astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore have been on this International Space Station, or ISS, since back in June. The mission was only supposed to last about 8 days, and I'm big on time, so I would be absolutely furious up there. I would be so mad, but that's probably also why I'm not an astronaut. Let me stay focused here. Like I said, Wilmore, who is 61, and Williams, who is 58, are seasoned astronauts with backgrounds as naval officers and test pilots. So Wilmore, serving as commander and Williams as the pilot, they traveled to the International Space Station aboard this 15-foot wide Boeing-built capsule called Starliner. They took off on June 5th and docked with the International Space Station on June 6th. NASA was banking on the Starliner capsule to become this new method for transporting crews to and from the International Space Station in a jiff. Very smooth, all of that. However, the capsule experienced issues, and now the two won't be coming home in time for the holidays and will most likely be returning in 2025. So I guess they're keeping busy in the meantime, working on research and other projects. Going back to May, This Boeing-made capsule apparently was having delays and experiencing problems with the valve in the rocket, plus the capsule faced a helium leak and all of these other issues. Again, the capsule is made by Boeing, which is in competition right now with Elon Musk's SpaceX, which is actually what's expected to go and rescue the two in February of 2025. February 2025, that is so long from now. Anyway, here's why this case is part of Sinister Subjects this episode. Because Wilmore reported this pulsing sound from the speaker in Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. Take a listen to this.
It's a strange noise coming through the speaker. Here, I don't know what's making it, but that.
All right, Butch, that one came through. It was kind of like a pulsing noise, almost like a sonar ping.
Yeah, I'll do it one more time, and I'll let y'all scratch your heads and see if you can figure out what's going on. Here we go. All right, over to you. Tell us if you figure it out.
Yep, good recording. Thanks, Butch. We will pass it on to the team and let you know what we find.
Now, NASA has responded by conducting an investigation and is calling the space station audio system complex, and the noise does not pose any threat. While others like you and I suspecting that perhaps the two astronauts are not alone up there. It's definitely creepy, but I am truly hoping for their safe return this upcoming February. Director Lee Daniels has put out The Deliverance, which is this paranormal exorcism horror film that is based on actual events. And I'll get into those actual events in a moment, but the film has received some backlash. Now, Lee Daniels is catching heat over the character Alberta, played by the iconic and legendary Glenn Close. The film, like I said, is based on a true story about an African-American family who said they were haunted by demons back in 2011. It stars Andra Day, Monique, and Glenn Close, who plays Day's mother. Well, the film's been out for a couple of weeks now, and screen recordings of a possessed Alberta, the character Glenn Close plays, says some questionable things in the film, and now people are side-eyeing Glenn Close for playing a white mom in a mostly black cast. And on top of that, there's a line in the movie that has people screaming in one intense exorcism scene while her character is possessed, and I'm going to insert a soundbite because I'm not going to say it myself. Glenn Close's character, Alberta, says,
"I can smell your nappy pussy."
And of course, social media exploded. Lee Daniels has received a ton of tweets and comments about that said line, but apparently he's been giving hints about this wild moment for a while though, posting a clip on X before the movie even dropped saying, "Y'all are not ready for Glenn in this." And he wasn't lying. He also added, "Every black person knows an Alberta," calling her a real part of the community, but one that's never been portrayed on screen before. And he gave major props to Glenn Close for bringing her to life in such a bold way. I have to agree with that. Here's the thing. Glenn Close is an actress. She's acting. She's playing a character. And again, I have to agree with what Lee Daniels said. I think a good actor taps into a character completely, and especially telling a story based on true events. Now, the actual events that the film is inspired by occurred back in November of 2011, where LaToya Emmons, her mom Rosa Campbell, and her 3 kids, then ages 7, 9, and 12, moved into a house at 3860 Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, and it's reported that the horror began immediately, with the family claiming to have been tormented by, wait for it, 200 demonic spirits. Just days after they moved in, they claimed that flies started swarming the porch, and even though they thought they'd killed the flies, they just kept coming back. Absolutely creepy. Then, Rosa, LaToya's mom, started hearing footsteps in the basement and doors creaking, which is already spooky enough. But then things really kicked up a notch. She says she then saw a shadowy figure of a man pacing around in the living room and even found a boot print It was also reported that at one point she claimed she was choked by an invisible force. Now, further details include LaToya's 12-year-old daughter allegedly levitating during a sleepover, and everyone prayed until she floated back down. And so it seemed like things kept getting more and more wild, and LaToya's older son was allegedly thrown across the room by an unknown force, while the younger one had his eyes roll back into his head, saying things like, "It's time to die, and I will kill you." So the family eventually reaches out to professionals who claim they were delusional and question the authenticity of all of these events. Then it wasn't long before the Department of Child Services got involved, believing that the kids were just performing for their mom. But here's where it gets even creepier. The Department of Child Services staff allegedly saw the youngest boy walking up the wall backwards. And let's not forget the 37-year-old police captain, Charles Austin, who was convinced there was paranormal activity in that house. Take a listen to his brief interview on what he experienced.
While I'm involved in this conversation, the AM/FM radio went to static and turned up very loud. And it said, "You in there?" And the person on the phone say, "What the hell was that?" And I say, "I don't know."
What was your reaction?
I was in shock.
At this point, closing this out, the family was like, enough is enough. They called in Father Michael Magano, who met with them in April of 2012 and came to the conclusion that they were dealing with demons. He performed 3 exorcisms, 2 in English and 1 in Latin. One of those exorcisms was on LaToya herself. Then finally, in 2012, the Ammons family packed up and moved to Indianapolis, and all the spooky stuff stopped once they left. It's giving very Amityville horror. Now, it's important to note that during the chaos, LaToya Ammons had lost custody of her children due to the skepticism from the social workers, but ultimately regained custody back in 2013. The family attends church regularly, and there have been no reports if LaToya or her family has seen the new film. It must be a really difficult situation to navigate, and as someone looking in, I always like to keep a grounded perspective of things because I believe there are evils in this world that are unexplained. I genuinely do, but I also believe that there is also evil that takes the form of people. I call them demons, which is just me referring to nasty people. But, you know, it's tough. Did this family do this for clout, or was it real? I definitely don't think that LaToya as a mother, though, would go through the trouble of actually losing her children, then having a custody battle. Like, what does someone really gain from that? But what do you all think about any of these sinister subjects? Let me know on Instagram at Scream Society Podcast. Gonna take a quick water break, terrifying but true, plus a story time and listener submissions after this.
Hi, I'm Rob Lovelace, and I'm a jaded gay. At least I was, or maybe I still am. I don't know, it depends on the day. But that's why I decided to start my podcast. After years of dealing with bad dates, bigots, and inequalities, I figured it was time to talk through the gay trauma. Every week, I'm diving into topics around pop culture, politics, and dating hardships, all while working to nurture emotional well-being. So tune in to A Jaded Gay for your weekly dose of gay empowerment. New episodes drop every Tuesday.
When the unthinkable becomes reality, we find ourselves questioning everything, as some stories are too terrifying but true. Chris Watts was a seemingly normal husband and father living in Frederick, Colorado with his wife, Shannon Watts, and their 2 young daughters, Bella, 4 years old, and Celeste, 3 years old. Shannon was also 15 weeks pregnant with their 3rd child, a boy they planned to name Nico. On the surface, the Watts family appeared to be living an idyllic life, but there were underlying issues in the marriage, largely stemming from Chris's extramarital affair. On August 13th, 2018, Shannon and her daughters were reported missing by a friend after Shannon missed a doctor's appointment and could not be reached. Chris initially cooperated with police and appeared on news outlets, pleading for their safe return. He claimed that he had no idea where his family could be, suggesting that Shannon might have taken the children and left. As the investigation progressed, Chris's story began to unravel. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's security camera showed Chris backing his truck into the garage early in the morning on the day his family was reported missing. This raised suspicions as it was inconsistent with his earlier statements. After failing a polygraph test, Chris confessed to killing Shannon, but initially claimed that he did so in a fit of rage after she strangled their daughters when he told her he wanted to separate. However, the story was also a lie. The truth came out when Chris eventually admitted to the full extent of his claims. He revealed that he had strangled Shannon in their bedroom after an argument about the relationship and his affair. He then drove her body along with his 2 daughters to an oil field owned by his employer, Andarko Petroleum. At the site, Chris smothered both Bella and Celeste with a blanket and disposed of their bodies in oil tanks while he buried Shannon in a shallow grave nearby. Chris Watts' motive for the murders seemed to stem from his desire to start a new life with his mistress, Nicole Kessinger, without the burden of his current family. He expressed feelings of being trapped in his marriage and overwhelmed by the responsibilities of fatherhood. However, his actions were driven by his own selfishness and disregard for his family's lives. Chris was arrested on August 15, 2018 and charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder, unlawful termination of a pregnancy, and tampering with the deceased human body. On November 6, 2018, Chris pleaded guilty to all charges in a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. On November 19, 2018, he was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, 3 of which were to be served consecutively. He was also sentenced to 48 years for unlawful termination of Shannon's pregnancy and an additional 36 years for the 3 counts of tampering with the deceased body. More terrifying was authorities being shown the grim reality before their very eyes prior to any further investigation, because during Chris Watts' police interrogation body cam footage, which took place at his home, the TV behind Chris was showing a trailer for TV show American Horror Story. The specific season being previewed was American Horror Story Apocalypse, which has themes of darkness and destruction. It begins with quick flashes of explosions, skulls, and creepy dolls, with the camera often focusing on unsettling symbols like black candles, blood, and gas masks. What's more eerie here is the disturbing scene of an unborn fetus. The fetus is shown in a red glowing womb amidst the destruction, skulls, and chaos. Was this an eerie foreshadowing of what Chris had done to his pregnant wife and children, or was this all just a terrifying coincidence? If you would like me to share an experience of yours, share something you find creepy or interesting, or simply want to just ask me a question, head on over to beacons.ai/The Scream Society and click on the society submission link. Remember, everything remains anonymous. So before we begin, a little side story / thank you to this mysterious submitter. So the other day, well, it was a few days ago actually, I received a DM on TikTok where this user who I came across on someone else's post, because I had commented to this other creator that if they ever want to share something on my podcast, feel free to reach out to me. This person commented on my comment and said that they had something, so I said, come on over. So they offered to share this dream experience that they had. It was a brief conversation, and I was looking forward to making a video showcasing the story and have it on the episode, which I already did. So for reference, it's the story of someone who had dreams as a child and would wake up on a table with figures standing over them. They would then be thrown from a flying object in the sky into the Grand Canyon. Now, this person had never seen the Grand Canyon before, but when they actually visited the Grand Canyon, it was the same place they had seen in the dream, if that makes sense. Then, as an adult, they became a truck driver and would be followed by this mysterious light in the sky. It was a very interesting story, but going back to me being excited about sharing their story, I had posted the video. I went back to DM them just to kind of see what they thought. And this user was completely gone. The account was wiped out. it no longer exists. And I'm probably looking too much into it, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a creepy coincidence. Who knows? But if you're out there listening, I just want to say thank you, and I hope that you are doing okay. I was reminded of that when I received this new submission, which says, Ralph, why haven't you covered Snooki? Have you seen the really creepy things that she's been saying about aliens? First of all, it's Snooki. I mean, I love Jersey Shore, the original show, but I would have never thought Snooki equals alien content. But I did do some digging before this recording and found some recordings from 2 separate podcasts that Snooki has been on, and just take a listen to this and form your own opinions.
Wait, are there any conspiracies that you guys like really believe?
Yes.
He loves UFOs.
Okay, aliens?
What? Okay.
For sure.
Okay,
No.
give me.
No,
Jenny has one.
I can't because I think it was proven correct, but I swore we did not land on the moon when they said that we landed on the moon first.
They tried to teach us that in 7th grade.
I know.
It was a whole part of our class.
Jenny, by the way.
What?
Sorry, we're saying.
We had zero fucking technology back then to even create cable television. How the fuck are we going on the moon?
Jenny, there's UFOs on the moon. They're watching us.
Ooh.
And the UFOs.
Oh, I love this.
They
We're
go
all like,
I hate it. They go into a wait. Listen, it's fucked up. Very Catholic, so I still believe in God and everything. But the UFOs supposedly go into a black hole, and they come into our time, and the UFOs are us in the future, millions of years from now.
Like American Horror Story.
And they're coming here to let us know that we're all gonna well, we're terrible human beings. I mean, country, everyone's fighting like awful, but we have a nuclear bomb and it just changes everyone. 80% of the human race dies.
It's American Horror Story.
I feel like I'm on Joe Rogan podcast right now. Who told you this?
What
in the God?
I researched. Oh, you don't know? Then you're not a UFO person. I know it all. I know it all.
I went to Egypt. I back her. Yeah. I swear to God, there was no way those pyramids were made by humans. Straight up,
no, but dead fucking ass. How?
My dream was I was somewhere in this like metal room, like everything was like dark silver, and I just remember being laid down on something, and then 3 like 5-foot grays just like staring at me. Wow. So I'm just laying there, and then all of a sudden they touch my back, like the back of my neck, and then I go through this like portal, and then I woke up. So it was like a dream. I woke up like this, like startled, and I'm like, what the f- was that? And then I'm touching my back, and I have this hole in the back of my neck.
Wow, you're kidding.
And I never know where it came from. I always written it off like, oh, like I had like a bump back here. I kept picking at it. No, it's like a legit hole.
Really?
Yeah. The hole is exactly where in my dream they touched my neck and I flew back into my body. It's so weird to say, and it does sound crazy, but like that's my experience.
So those 2 clips were taken from the UAP podcast and the Planbury Uncut podcast, and I'm obviously shook here. I think these are very, very detailed and very interesting stories, and I wonder if there's an image with the mark that she says that the aliens left her with, because I've been trying to find it and I can't find anything. Really quick before getting into this final submission, I do have to issue a quick trigger warning, as I do insert a warning at the start of each episode. But when it comes to children, I feel I need to take an extra precaution. So this one says, another school shooting. When will something be done? I shouldn't have to have a bulletproof shield in my son's backpack and have a talk with him every new school year, reminding him to shield his upper body, because if he gets hit in his lower body, it's better than his life being taken away by getting hit in his upper body. Also, the fact I have to remind him not to tell anyone he has a bulletproof pod in his backpack so others don't try to take it from him in case of a shooting, because I'd rather his life be spared than another child. It's a very shitty thing to say, but I would protect my son before anyone else. Thoughts on this? Oh God, this is gonna be rough. I believe this is referring to the yet another school shooting that just recently took place in Georgia on September 4th. And I mean, what thoughts can I really give on this? That
hasn't already been said? I can give you somewhat of a different perspective. The fact that it's another mass shooting, what was it? 4 killed and 9 injured, and not as many deaths luckily, but still just as important and horrifying. And if you look at this case and how it was handled, like I was just watching something about it before I did this episode actually, and the shooter, which is this 14-year-old boy, his name is like Colt Gray, I believe, had said about a year or so ago during this gaming match online, like Xbox Live or something, that he wanted to do something like this. Then someone, told and said something, they spoke out. Authorities did what they could, I guess, and Colt denied everything. And I mean, here we are now. And tell me why the father of this child decides to let him have a semi-automatic gun instead of taking this child to a therapist or seek any kind of mental health treatment. Like, let's just give him a gun. It's totally fine. Like, how fucking irresponsible. And obviously, this case is still developing. I believe it came out that the mother of Colt's had a criminal record as well. And here's the thing. It's not like I can say just ban guns. Do you know how many people have access to weapons illegally? Should we enforce more strict protocols and evaluations for those wanting a firearm legally? Absolutely. But how long have we been saying that? What exactly are these politicians who we're voting for focusing on? I understand that there are other issues at stake here, but I feel like this one should take priority. Like, how long does it take for something to actually get done? And I'm sorry, as a parent, you have to live with this fear. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with wanting to protect your own child. I mean, maybe get together with some of the other parents and be like, hey guys, like, this is where I got my son's this. I highly recommend with what's going on. Maybe you guys want to, get one of those for your child. I feel like really ugly saying this, but I'm also really glad that there are sadly these resources available for your children to protect themselves. I mean, we shouldn't have to have them, but I'm glad that they're available now. So as for this case, this Georgia case, it really does highlight the level of stupidity, and I'm not sorry for saying that, and carelessness that these parents and authorities had taken in this situation. Had the authorities been more proactive and had his parents not given him a semi-automatic weapon, 4 people would still be alive. I don't know. It's a really slippery slope. But all I know is, like, if I ever have children, I know it's not as popular, but the homeschool route is looking way more appealing now. Thank you for tuning into the Scream Society podcast, hosted, written, produced, and edited by yours truly, Ralph Anthony. Help the society grow by subscribing on your favorite platform and leave a rating and review. I always strive for 5s. Have a horror or paranormal experience? Want me to answer your questions on the show? Submit to beacons.ai/The Scream Society. Connect with the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Scream Society Podcast. And until next time, I'll scare you on the next episode.